Michael Kay back here on the show. How are you, Michael?
Good, Rich. How you doing?
You surprised about the Girardi firing?
I'm surprised that it was the Yankees' decision. That's really surprising to me. I always thought there was a possibility that Joe would walk away and just take a little bit of a deep breath for a couple of years and then rejoin the fray. But the fact that the Yankees, they sent out a release saying that they're going to move in another direction, so they want to make it very clear that they're the ones who made the decision, that's surprising.
So why did they do that, do you think?
Trying to read the tea leaves, I would think that either the relationship with Cashman was becoming a bit frayed or tense, or maybe the Yankee front office felt that the relationship between Joe Girardi and the players was not as good as it could be. Joe Torre had the respect and love of his players. Girardi has the immense respect of his players. I'm not sure that there's a great affection there. Joe's not a warm and cuddly guy, and maybe because the team is so numbers and analytic driven, they felt that they needed somebody that could also have some warmth attached to it, because Joe was all about the black and white, all about the numbers.
Well, I know he had that binder that always drove me nuts, that he always looked at and then made a decision that was a head-scratcher, to say the least. But when it's all said and done, there were more wins than losses. And, it's interesting you mentioned Torre, Michael, because the 95 Yankees, who this team might resemble most as opposed to the 96 Yankees that won it all, had Buck Showalter as their manager, and they turned the page from him, and they got Joe Torre, and then all of a sudden a dynasty broke out. Do you see something similar potentially in this whole scenario, Michael?
Well, we'll have to see exactly who they bring in, but certainly the talent base is there. That's why, if Joe walked away, I would have been surprised on that end that somebody would walk away from the potential to round out the resume and go to the Hall of Fame. He might have 2 more championships here, because this team that you saw – it's probably the worst team the Yankees are going to have for the next 5 years. That's how much talent is in the pipeline. This team is primed to win championships. They are. They're built that way. But one thing I would say to you, Rich, you hated the binder. Earl Weaver and Billy Martin are not walking through that door. The next guy they hire is going to be a slave to the binder. That's who they will insist on, because this is an analytics team. This is a team that the numbers are crunched by very bright people upstairs, and those numbers are expected to be put to work by the manager. The manager does not go by the gut at all. If he has a book that says that Sabatia's ERA rises from 3.2 to 5.1 after 75 pitches, Sabathia is going to be taken out after 75 pitches, even if he looks great. We've seen it in the postseason. So the next manager is going to be a numbers-driven guy as well.
Michael Kay, Yes Network, also of the Michael Kay Show in New York City here on the Rich Eisen Show. So who might be walking through that door, do you think?
I mean, that's a good question. It's going to be a little bit of a battle, I would think, because this is New York and there's some Broadway to it, so you would think it's going to be a big name or somebody with a recognizable name, but I don't think that name is going to be beholden to numbers. So I'll throw a couple of names at you. Rob Thompson has been the bench coach for Joe Girardi. He's been in the Yankee organization for 26 years. Is that a big enough name? I don't know. Cashman certainly has a relationship with him. Cashman said that's going to be imperative in anybody they hire. Kevin Long is free. Kevin Long was a part of the Yankee organization for a while before he was let go as hitting coach. Would they look at him? I know a guy that Brian Cashman has always admired, a guy like Pete Mackanin, who was fired as the Phillies manager and has moved to the front office, but obviously could take another job. He could go if they want to go, but that's certainly not a big, sexy New York name. But then the Mets went out and got a guy named Mickey Callaway that not too many people know, so you could make your own name. But I don't know if there's a favorite in the clubhouse right now. I mean, would Tony Pena be considered? He finished second when Girardi got the job. Maybe there's a manager that has a job right now that could get out of the job and take this one, because I think this is one of the great jobs in sports that's available right now. You come into a ready-made situation with an organization that's brimming with talent. So whoever gets it's going to be a lucky man.
How about this name? Three words for you: Donald Arthur Mattingly. Michael,
I don't think so. A lot of people have asked that. He finished a distant third when they hired Girardi. It was Girardi first, Pena, and then Mattingly. So I don't think that Donnie is that numbers-driven, analytical guy. I think he has certainly adapted to it, but I can't see that happening, because consider this. There were 2 players in the history of the Yankees when George Steinbrenner bought them and owned them that he considered sons. One was Mattingly and one was Jeter. I mean, he really considered them his third and fourth sons. And George was still alive when this decision was made to hire Girardi. So if they couldn't get Mattingly to be hired with George still alive. I just don't think it's going to happen now.
And isn't it amazing that one son is now the owner of the team that he's the manager of?
Yeah, it is. It's
down in
a small
Miami.
world.
It is. Michael Kay of Yes Network joining me here. And now let's talk a little bit about last night. I mean, the Yankees were able to keep Springer down, and Altuve is going to Altuve. But this team, what it did last night against that Dodger bullpen, really, I think, might be an awakened World Series giant. What do you think, Michael Kay?
Well, certainly they needed that game. You didn't want to go back to Houston down 0-2. But, I looked at it another way, Rich. Their bullpen is terrible.
It is
the
true.
Astros.
That's true. They almost
Maybe it's just a blip on the radar screen for the Dodgers. I thought that Roberts probably pushed the envelope too much, trying to get 2 innings out of Jansen. I think the whole thing that messed him up was the pitcher that he brought in that threw just 4 pitches. That's not the way he planned it. And then he had to go tomorrow after that. So I think that messed up the whole timeline. But I still don't think the Astros have enough bullpen to make this work.
That's true. I mean, they almost blew the second 2-run lead that they got in the extra innings last night. Almost blew that one. And then if that game went into the 12th inning, I don't know who the heck would have pitched for the Houston Astros. You know?
They probably would have had to grab a starter that they from Game 4. I would think that's the only thing I could think of.
So now it's a best of 5 with next 3 in the juice box down in Houston. Who do you think wins this World Series, Michael?
I think I picked the Dodgers in 6. I'll stay with that. One thing, we go back to talking analytics, and I talked about this on my show yesterday. It's taken a lot of the fun away from baseball. It really has. The arguments and stuff like that, because all these managers have this data that tells you why they make these wacky decisions. Rich Hill should not have been pulled after 4 innings, and that set up everything where you had to overuse Jansen. So it's strange. I mean, these guys go strictly by the numbers. That's the only way it's going to be allowed. And the stars of the team are no longer the Lou Pinellas, throwing bases, and Billy Martin. It's the front office who you don't even see. Those are the guys making all the calls.
Well, I mean, just again, because you're so close to it and you see it and how it does actually manifest itself in a decision. What would possibly have been the numbers that told Dave Roberts to pull Rich Hill in the middle of a game like that?
The numbers would be that third time through the order, the numbers go up exponentially. And, we saw it with Sabathia during the postseason, where they took him out against Cleveland when he shouldn't have been taken out in the 8-3 lead. And that was the game where he didn't, Girardi didn't challenge the hit by pitch. So those are the numbers that they just live and die by. And here's what the manager is risking, Rich. If you don't take him out and then everything falls apart, then you have to answer to the front office geniuses. And I don't say that in a pejorative way. These people are geniuses. Why didn't you take him out? We've given you the data. You have to take him out. And I just think that the game has moved away from trust your eyes. I mean, Dave Roberts knows when a guy's losing his stuff. You were watching the game. I was watching the game. Was Rich Hill losing his stuff to your eye? Not to mine. So I just think that a lot of the fun of baseball has been taken away by all the analytics and all the shifts and all the bullpen moves and stuff like that. It's not the same, although that was a fun game yesterday.
Michael, always enjoy our chats. Let's chat down the line. Maybe next time when the Yankees name a manager and in between. Always love chatting with you.
Anytime, Rich. Thank you.
Right back at you. At Real Michael K on Twitter.
For more Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Rich Eisen Show app.